For years, an abandoned cabin sat on the corner of my mountain property, collecting dust and falling apart. After confirming the property lines of the county, I decided it was finally time to remove the unsafe structure. The paperwork was complete, and every permit had been approved. I thought the hardest part would be operating the excavator. Before beginning the demolition, I hired a licensed surveyor to mark every property boundary. Bright survey flags stretched across the clearing, exactly where the official maps showed. I wanted every measurement documented before the first board came down. Preparation would prevent unnecessary disputes later. As demolition equipment arrived, several nearby residents gathered to watch from a safe distance. Most believed the dangerous cabin should have been removed years ago. The structure leaned noticeably after decades of neglect. Safety was everyone's biggest concern. Just before work started, Karen Whitmore drove onto property, demanding that everything stop. She claimed the cabin belonged to the HOA and accused me of destroying community property. I calmly showed her the county deed proving otherwise. She refused to believe it. Karen insisted she would take the matter to court before allowing another piece of wood to be removed. Since all work had been approved legally, I agreed to pause until the hearing. There was no reason to rush. The facts would speak for themselves. 2 weeks later, both sides met inside the county courthouse for the scheduled hearing. I carried every survey, permit, and property deed neatly organized in a binder. Karen arrived equally confident, insisting the HOA had historical ownership of the cabin. The judge carefully listened before asking to see the official records. The county surveyor testified first and displayed detailed boundary maps on a courtroom monitor. Every property line matched the official county records without exception. The abandoned cabin sat entirely within my legally owned land. The courtroom became noticeably quieter. Karen argued that the HOA had maintained the cabin for many years. However, she couldn't provide any recorded deed transferring ownership. Historical use alone wasn't enough to establish legal possession. The judge continued reviewing the evidence carefully. My attorney presented certified deeds dating back more than 40 years. Every document consistently identified the cabin as part of my property. The chain of ownership was complete and properly recorded. There were no missing records or conflicting surveys. After reviewing every exhibit, Judge Collins delivered a clear decision. He ruled that the cabin legally belonged to my property and that demolition could proceed. The courtroom remained respectful as both sides accepted the ruling. The legal uncertainty had finally ended. The following morning, the demolition crew returned to property with every required permit. Safety barriers were placed around the work area before equipment started. Neighbors watched quietly from a designated viewing distance. Everything was handled professionally from beginning to end. The excavator slowly removed the damaged roof before taking apart the unstable walls. Each section was lowered carefully to protect surrounding trees and nearby property. Years of decay disappeared one piece at a time. The project focused on safety rather than speed. Karen arrived during the demolition and watched silently from outside the safety fence. She realized the court's decision had already settled the dispute. There was nothing left to challenge. The work continued without interruption. By late afternoon, the old cabin had been completely removed. Construction crews recycled usable lumber and cleared the remaining debris. The property looked cleaner and far safer than before. The mountain view finally opened again. A county inspector completed the final site inspection before signing the project documents. Every permit requirement had been satisfied successfully. The demolition officially closed without violations. Planning ahead had made the entire process straightforward. Over the next few weeks, I planted young pine trees where the old structure had once stood. Native wildflowers soon began covering the clear hillside. The land slowly returned to its natural beauty. It felt like a fresh beginning. Neighbors later thanked me for improving the safety and appearance of property. Many remembered worrying that the abandoned cabin might collapse one day. Now the land blended naturally into the surrounding forest. The community appreciated the improvement. Looking back, I realized the dispute had never been about demolition alone. It was about understanding property rights and following the proper legal process. Patience accomplished more than arguments ever could. The documents made all the difference. The cleared land eventually became the perfect location for a small picnic area. Friends and family gathered there throughout the summer to enjoy the mountain views. What had once been an unsafe structure became a welcoming space. The transformation felt complete. As the sun disappeared behind the mountains, I smiled knowing the matter had been resolved fairly. Respect for the law, careful preparation, and patience had guided every decision. Sometimes the strongest victories come through facts rather than conflict, and that lesson will stay with me for the rest of my life.